What I'll try to do is break down the drug discovery and development process and see where AI has actually made a difference or has potential to make the difference. So coming to early research and discovery, now what's the first question that any pharmaceutical would ask is what is the disease area that we'd like to work on? And what we need to be successful in that area is actually the disease pathway. So number one, we need to understand the disease pathway in the most intricate detail. And that is where tools like AlphaFold have really helped in terms of predicting the 3D structures of proteins, also the protein folding with the most recent release, and along with that, the biomolecules, like name it any biomolecule, be it the DNA, the RNA, the ligands, which are our low molecular weight NCEs, everything, the interactions between the protein ligand or any other component of biomolecule can easily be elucidated. Now, these are discoveries that have happened very recently, and the industry has really just started to explore the potential so that we can see a tangible impact. Now, the next step is within the disease pathway, what do? We need to identify the target. Now, the target identification and validation is again dependent on such tools, and compared to a few years before, now we can actually see it with our eyes in terms of how the interactions between biomolecules are actually happening. The next step is the hit identification. Again, this is not something new. We have been doing it for the longest time. But what has changed is that the in silico screening that happens now can be enabled with AI. So something that used to take 2,500 chemical structures being studied, now will get our hit by probably just in hundreds, maybe 300 to 350 molecules, and we already have a hit that binds to the target efficiently. Now, the next step would be the lead generation, which is basically the optimization of the hit to the lead. And that includes optimizing our chemical properties as well as optimizing the biological properties in terms of how well it binds to the target and how long does it stay bound to the target and properties like that. So AI across all these steps, starting from understanding the disease pathway to optimization of the lead, and also understanding the safety, the predictive safety in terms of how it will behave in different animal models, or even before it gets into, or is it even a viable candidate for testing in clinical trials. So this entire stage, the entire step takes about, like I mentioned, 3 to 6 years. And there already have been reports wherein this entire process has been compressed to less than 2 years, about 18 months. So what does that mean for us? It means more efficient drug discovery. It means faster medicines being delivered to the patients. Now, moving on to clinical development, wherein I particularly work on, is the clinical trials, the phase 1 to phase 4, extending to post-marketing. So here, when we look at the trial design, planning, and execution, now what's really important here is that AI I'll just bring out a couple of use cases that the industry is already looking into and have started to implement in general. So the first one is the protocol planning, protocol writing, which is more in the domain of the document writing. Again, AI can generate it really quickly in a very short time, in a very efficient and more accurate way as well, saving a lot of time of the teams that work on the protocol development. The next one, the most important component, which is already a part of the protocol, is a trial design. Now, when we come to the trial design, what AI really can do is simulate different design scenarios. So what we call as scenario planning, in terms of we have scenario A to F, there could be 6 different study designs, and it can actually predict outcomes. So these are some of the very potential use cases of AI, where it can bring the recruitment timelines and so. Now, the recruitment timelines is the next component that I want to talk about. Why? Because it is one of the most important, I would say, roadblocks when it comes to doing trials effectively or efficiently. Now, there is a paper in Nature that was published a couple of years ago on Trial Pathfinder. So if you have not really looked at it, I would encourage you to go through it. And what it shows is that in a health database in US, They were patients with advanced non-small cell lung cancer who had already been on immunotherapies. Now, what this particular AI group did from an academic institution along with a collaboration with a pharma company, what they did was that they looked at the eligibility criteria and they made small tweaks. Nothing major, something as simple as lab values of few parameters. And what they were able to do is that the overly restrictive criteria, what they had used, was actually made relaxed a little bit. Now, that did not have any significant impact on the hazard ratios. And basically, when a data-driven approach to AI was taken in this retrospective analysis, they found that the trial actually had a better hazard ratio, a lower one, that predicts better survival outcomes. So what do we mean by this? It means that if we are able to relax the eligibility criteria just by a few points here and there, and primarily right now our trials are designed are also based on the historical protocols. So for some reason, if we have identified a limit, it can be tweaked a little bit so that more patients can be included in the trial, and those patients otherwise were actually not part of the trial because of the restrictive criteria, but who could have significantly benefited by taking part in those trials. So these are just some very interesting use cases that are popping up in clinical development. And moving on to trial execution, precision medicine, biomarkers, and in general, the imaging. All these components, as and when these are used as assessments in a clinical trial, we have already discussed about these parameters, better biomarker, more predictive biomarkers, identifying a surrogate endpoint, a better one that can link to the actual clinical outcomes. Now, all these components come together to accelerate the clinical development. So the current timeline of about 9 to 10 years can be significantly shrunk down by at least a couple of years, even at this stage. The next component is submission to HAs. Now, those who have worked on these ECTD modules, it nearly encompasses about hundreds and thousands of pages. Now, putting that together, bringing the administrative efficiency, operational efficiency, and publishing and so on, again, there's a huge potential of AI to also narrow down the submission dossier, which is prepared for the health authorities. And lastly, it is the regulatory reviews in this segment. So we already have literature reports predicting using regulatory intelligence, wherein the pharma companies can actually predict in terms of what are the expected questions from the health authorities and be prepared. Again, the timeline for preparation of a submission dossier is 1 to 2 years. And for regulatory reviews, also depending on the health authority, it is about 1 to 2 years. So in both these steps, by the use of AI, using either tools to operate for better operational efficiency, or for regulatory reviews, it is an intelligence platform that would help put down the answers to the health authority questions really effectively, really brings down the timeline.